The perfect facade. Olivia Bennet surveyed the pristine white tablecloths adorned with crystal centerpieces that caught the late afternoon sunlight streaming through the floor to ceiling. Windows. The grand ballroom at the Harrington Hotel was her canvas, and tonight's charity gala would be her masterpiece. At 32, Olivia had built stellar events from nothing but determination and an eye for beauty that transformed ordinary spaces into extraordinary experiences. The florist just called. "The orchid arrangements will be here in 20 minutes, said Natalie, her assistant, tablet in hand as she efficiently moved through her checklist. Olivia nodded, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. Perfect, and the sound check completed. An hour ago, everything's ready for tonight. A text notification lit up her phone. Dominic. A smile spread across her face as she read his message. Can't wait to see your magic tonight. Love you. Dominic Reed had entered her life 3 years ago at another event she'd designed. He'd been there representing his law firm, Patterson and Reed, which had sponsored the fundraiser. Their connection had been immediate. His confident charm and articulate intelligence complemented her creative spirit. Within 6 months, they were inseparable. Is that the boyfriend? Natalie asked with a knowing grin. Future fiancé, if his hints about our upcoming trip to Bali are anything to go by, Olivia replied, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. What had initially drawn her to Dominic was his unwavering principles. As a corporate attorney, specializing in ethics compliance, he built his reputation on integrity. Character is what you do when no one's watching, he often said. Both to her and in the numerous speaking engagements where he advised companies on ethical business practices, she glanced at her watch. 3 hours until guests would arrive, including the mayor and several prominent business leaders, all clients of Dominic's firm. Tonight wasn't just another success for Stellar Events. It was a joint triumph. Dominic had brought in half the donors through his connections, and Olivia had created the environment that would encourage their generosity. Miss Bennet, one of the hotel staff approached. The chef would like to confirm the timing for the dessert service. Of course, I'll be right there. As she walked toward the kitchen, Olivia felt a familiar warmth spreading through her chest. This life she'd built, her thriving business, her relationship with Dominic, their downtown loft with the terrace garden, was everything she'd dreamed of. The kitchen was a controlled chaos of white uniforms and gleaming steel. Chef Marcus Weber, renowned for his artistic desserts, waited for her by a stunning 3-tiered cake decorated with edible gold leaf and hand-painted flowers. It's magnificent, Olivia breathed, admiring the centerpiece that would be revealed. After dinner, only the best for our Olivia, Marcus said with a wink. They'd worked together on countless events, developing a professional friendship built on mutual respect. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a photograph from Dominic. He was at the tailor's, getting a final fitting for his tuxedo. Making sure I look worthy of standing next to the most beautiful woman in the room, his message read. Olivia replied with a heart emoji, then returned to her inspection of the kitchen preparations. Everything was perfect, just as it should be. Later, as guests began to arrive, Olivia stood in a midnight blue gown that complemented her fair skin and copper hair. Dominic appeared at her side, handsome in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, his dark hair styled impeccably. You've outdone yourself, he whispered, his hand at the small of her back as they greeted the mayor. We make quite the team, she replied, believing every word. The evening unfolded flawlessly. Dominic gave a compelling speech about corporate responsibility that had checkbooks opening throughout the room. When he raised his glass to toast, his eyes found Olivia's across the crowd. To integrity in all things, he said, and to the woman who inspires me to be better every day. The crowd applauded, and Olivia felt a flutter in her chest. This was happiness, pure and complete. She had no idea that in less than 2 weeks, everything would change. Cracks in the foundation, the first hint that something was amiss, came on a Tuesday afternoon. 3 days after the charity gala, Olivia sat in her office at Stellar Events, reviewing proposals for an upcoming corporate retreat when Vanessa Morgan knocked on her open door. Vanessa had joined the company as a partner 18 months ago, bringing with her a portfolio of high-profile clients and a sophisticated aesthetic that complemented Olivia's own style. Tall, with sleek black hair and a perpetual air of confidence, Vanessa had quickly become indispensable to the company's growth. "Have you seen the photographs from the gala?" Vanessa asked, setting a glossy portfolio on Olivia's desk. "The Herring publicity team just sent them over. We absolutely need to feature these on our website." Olivia flipped through the images, pride warming her chest. The grand ballroom had been transformed into an ethereal space of light and elegance. "These are stunning. Send them to Trevor for the website, and we should include a few in the quarterly newsletter." As she continued through the portfolio, Olivia paused at a particular photograph. It captured a moment she hadn't witnessed Dominic in animated conversation. With Vanessa near the bar, their heads inclined toward each other, a particular intensity in their expressions. Something about the intimacy of their posture made Olivia's stomach tighten inexplicably. "You and Dominic seem deep in conversation," she commented, keeping her tone light. Vanessa's perfectly manicured hand fluttered dismissively. "Just discussing potential clients. How persuasive he can be when he's championing a cause." She smiled, collecting the portfolio. "By the way, I've confirmed our meeting with the Hamilton Group for Thursday morning. Their summer conference. Could be our biggest contract yet." After Vanessa left, Olivia found herself returning to the image in her mind. It was nothing, she told herself, just a business conversation between two professionals. Yet a seedling of unease had been planted. Over the next week, that seedling began to grow. Dominic canceled their standing Friday dinner date, citing an unexpected client emergency. On Saturday morning, when Olivia called his office to suggest bringing lunch, his secretary informed her he wasn't in. Despite having told Olivia he would be working all weekend on a critical case. "Perhaps I misunderstood," she murmured, ending the call with a frown. That evening, when Dominic returned to their loft, he carried the scent of unfamiliar perfume, subtle but distinct enough for Olivia to notice as he embraced her. "Productive day?" she asked, setting a glass of his favorite whiskey on the counter. "Exhausting," he replied, loosening his tie. "The Peterson merger is hitting some regulatory roadblocks. We spent hours in strategy sessions." Olivia nodded, not mentioning his secretary's contrary information. "Vanessa said the Hamilton Group is interested in our proposal for their conference. She seemed quite confident we'll secure the contract." Dominic's expression flickered something between surprise and caution before settling back into its usual composed state. "That's excellent news. Vanessa certainly knows how to close a deal." There was an inflection in the way he said Vanessa's name, a slight softening that made Olivia's heart beat faster. She turned away, busying herself with dinner preparations, willing to let him see the question in her eyes. The following week brought more inconsistencies. Dominic's late nights increased. His texts became sporadic and brief. When she mentioned joining him for lunch downtown, he suggested a restaurant far from his office, claiming he needed a change of scenery. Then came the business trip to Chicago, a 2-day conference on corporate compliance that extended to 4 days with vague explanations about networking opportunities too valuable to miss. On the third night of his absence, Olivia sat alone on their terrace, nursing a glass of wine. Her phone chimed with a text from Natalie. "I thought you'd want to see this. Don't shoot the messenger." The attached photo showed Dominic entering an upscale Chicago hotel. Restaurant. His hand resting on the small of Vanessa's back, a gesture Olivia recognized as one he often used with her. They weren't dressed for a business meeting. Vanessa wore a fitted black dress that displayed her elegant figure to full advantage, and Dominic had exchanged his usual conservative suit for dark jeans and a charcoal blazer. Olivia's fingers trembled as she zoomed in on the image. There was no mistaking the proprietary nature of his touch or the intimate smile Vanessa offered in return. "Natalie's husband is at the same conference," came a follow-up text. He thought it was strange to see Vanessa there, since it's for legal professionals. Olivia set down her phone without responding. The wine in her glass suddenly tasted bitter. She recalled Dominic's words from countless speeches and private conversations. Integrity isn't a sometimes thing. It's an all-the-time thing. Wasn't lost on her when he returned from Chicago. Dominic brought her an expensive bracelet, something he'd never done after previous business trips. His explanations about the conference were detailed but rehearsed, avoiding any mention of Vanessa's presence. Olivia accepted the gift with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, tucking away her knowledge like a weapon she wasn't yet ready to wield. "I've missed you," he said, kissing her with what seemed like genuine affection. She wanted to believe him, wanted to attribute the changes in his behavior to work stress or her own imagination. But the evidence was mounting, brick by brick, constructing. A wall of suspicion she could no longer see past. 2 days later, Olivia found herself with an unexpected opening in her schedule when a client meeting was canceled. On impulse, she decided to surprise Dominic with lunch at his office, something she hadn't done in months. As the elevator ascended to the 23rd floor of the gleaming downtown tower that housed Patterson and Red, Olivia rehearsed what she would say if her suspicions were confirmed. Would she confront them immediately? Would she walk away silently? The doors opened, and she stepped into the reception area with her heart hammering against her ribs. Ms. Bennett greeted Patricia, Dominic's longtime secretary. "I'm afraid Mr. Reed isn't available at the moment. He's in a meeting that can't be interrupted." "That's all right," Olivia replied with forced brightness. "I can wait. It's been too long since we've had lunch together." Patricia's expression faltered. "The thing is, his meeting is off-site. At the Kensington Hotel, a client requested privacy for sensitive negotiations." The Kensington. Olivia knew it while she had organized several events in its intimate conference rooms. She also knew it was where Vanessa preferred to stay when she had early morning client meetings downtown, avoiding the commute from her suburban home. "I see," Olivia said quietly. "When do you expect him back?" "Not until late afternoon, I'm afraid." Olivia nodded, her decision crystallizing. "Thank you, Patricia. No need to mention I stopped by." Outside, she hailed a taxi. "The Kensington Hotel." "Please," she instructed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Sometimes, to preserve your dignity, you had to face the truth head-on, no matter how much it might hurt." The bitter truth, the Kensington Hotel stood like a testament to old-world elegance in the heart of the financial district. Its limestone facade and uniformed doorman a stark contrast to the glass and steel towers surrounding it. Olivia had always appreciated its understated luxury, the way it whispered of discretion and refinement rather than shouting it today. Those same qualities made her stomach churn as she stepped into the hushed lobby with its marble floors and crystal chandeliers. How many clandestine meetings had these walls witnessed? How many secrets had been exchanged over expensive scotch in its wood-paneled bar? Olivia approached the concierge with practiced poise. "Good afternoon. I'm looking for Dominic Reed." "I believe he's in a meeting here." The young man consulted his computer. "Mr. Reed registered for Conference Room B until 2:30 p.m. Would you like me to call and announce you?" "No, thank you," Olivia replied smoothly. "I'm actually part of the meeting, just running a bit late." With a polite nod, she turned toward the corridor leading to the conference rooms, her heels clicking against the marble in a rhythm that matched her racing pulse. Conference Room B was at the end of the hallway, partially secluded from the main areas, perfect for privacy, perfect for deception. Outside the door, Olivia paused.
Ouch.
There were voices inside, but not the multiple voices of a client meeting. Just two, one male, one female, engaged in conversation, punctuated by soft laughter. She recognized both instantly. For a moment she considered turning around, preserving the last shreds of her illusion. But hadn't she come for the truth? Steeling herself, she opened the door without knocking. The scene before her was worse than she had imagined. It wasn't a hasty, passionate encounter that might be attributed to momentary weakness. Instead, it was the casual intimacy of an established relationship. Dominic and Vanessa sat close together at the conference table. Documents spread before them, but their posture told a different story than business. His arm draped across the back of her chair. Her hand rested on his thigh. Between them sat a half-empty bottle of champagne and two flutes. They looked up in unison, identical expressions of shock freezing on their faces. Olivia Dominic recovered first, standing abruptly. "This isn't what it looks like," she finished for him, her voice remarkably calm. I think we both know that's not true. Vanessa at least had the grace to look ashamed, quickly gathering papers into a folder. Olivia, I can explain, I'm sure you can, Olivia interrupted. You're both excellent at explanations, at crafting narratives, at selling illusions. She gestured to the champagne. What are we celebrating? The Hamilton contract? Or just another successful deception? Dominic moved toward her, his face arranged in the earnest expression he used to persuade juries. Olivia, please, let's discuss this privately. Why start now? Her laugh held no humor. We haven't had a truly private conversation in months, have we? There's always been someone else in the room, even when she wasn't physically present. It's complicated, he began, a line so cliché, it almost made her laugh again. No, Dominic, it's actually quite simple. You've been sleeping with my business partner while preaching integrity to anyone who would listen. She turned to Vanessa. And you've been looking me in the eye every day, discussing client strategies and company growth while sleeping with my boyfriend. There's nothing complicated about betrayal. Vanessa stood, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands.
I should.
Go no, Olivia said firmly. I'm going. You two clearly have more to discuss. She reached into her purse and removed the key to the loft she shared with Dominic, placing it deliberately on the table. I'll be staying at the Archer tonight. You can collect your things tomorrow between 9 and 11. Make sure I'm not there. Dominic grabbed her arm as she turned to leave.
Olivia, wait.
3 years together deserves more than this. We can work through this. She looked down at his hand on her arm, then up into his face, the face she had loved, trusted, woken up beside countless mornings. The time for working through things was before you decided to betray everything we built together. I made a mistake, he pleaded. No, she corrected him gently. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or saying the wrong thing during an argument. This was a choice. Multiple choices, made day after day. She pulled her arm free and walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. You know what the saddest part is? I actually believed all those speeches you gave about integrity and character. She shook her head. You performed them so well. The door closed behind her with a soft click that somehow felt more final than a slam would have. Olivia walked down the corridor with her spine straight and her head high, nodding politely to hotel staff she passed. Only when she reached the sanctuary of a taxi did she allow a single tear to fall. That evening. In her hotel room, Olivia sat cross-legged on the bed with her laptop open and a notepad beside her. The initial shock had given way to a cold clarity that felt almost like power. She had lost her relationship and potentially her business partnership in a single afternoon. But she had gained something perhaps more valuable. The truth, her phone, had been buzzing intermittently with messages from both Dominic and Vanessa. Apologies. Explanations, please. For conversations. She ignored them all, focusing instead on the document before her. Stellar Events was her creation. Built from the ground up before Vanessa had entered the picture. Their partnership agreement, which Olivia now reviewed line by line, included a morality clause, something Dominic had actually suggested when he'd reviewed the contract, ironically enough. It stated that any partner whose personal conduct threatened the company's reputation could be removed with minimal compensation. Vanessa's affair with a prominent client's significant other certainly qualified. As for Dominic, his firm prided itself on its ethical standing. How would the senior partners react to learning their ethics compliance specialist had been conducting an affair with his girlfriend's business partner? Revenge wasn't Olivia's style. She had always prided herself on professionalism and grace. Under pressure, but accountability. That was something she believed in deeply. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as a plan began to form. Dominic's birthday was approaching, an event he had been anticipating for months. He would be made partner at his firm if the vote went as expected, and the celebration was meant to double as a professional milestone. Olivia had already reserved the Lotus, the city's most exclusive rooftop restaurant, sent invitations to everyone in Dominic's professional and personal circles. The guest list included the firm's founding partners, major clients, and his family, his proud mother who had raised him alone after his father's early death, his younger sister who adored him, his college friends who still considered him the moral compass of their group. She had intended to announce their engagement that night, having found the ring hidden in his desk drawer weeks ago. Now, she had something very different in mind. Picking up her phone, she called the one person she knew would understand precisely what needed to be done. Amelia. It's Olivia. I need your help with something. Unconventional. Amelia Chen, owner of the Sugar Gallery and the city's most innovative pastry chef, had been Olivia's friend since culinary school, before Olivia had switched to event planning. If anyone could help her serve justice with the perfect amount of sweetness, it was Amelia. Whatever you need, came the immediate response. Just tell me who needs to be destroyed and how thoroughly. For the first time that day, Olivia smiled. It wasn't a happy expression, but it contained a promise to herself, and to anyone watching, that she would not be broken by betrayal. She would rise from these ashes. But first there would be fire. Dish best served cold for the next 3 weeks. Olivia moved through her days with mechanical precision. She found a new apartment, sun-filled loft in the arts district, that bore no resemblance to the home she had shared with Dominic. She restructured stellar events, buying out Vanessa's share, using the morality clause as leverage, a process that had been surprisingly civil given the circumstances. "I never meant to hurt you," Vanessa had said during their final meeting, her voice small in the conference room that once witnessed their ambitious planning sessions. "Intent rarely matters as much as impact," Olivia had replied, sliding the signed buyout agreement into a folder. "Good luck with your next venture." The professional separation had been clean and quick. The emotional aftermath was messier. Nights were the hardest, when the distractions of work faded and the silence of her new home pressed in around her. She would lie awake, remembering the weight of Dominic's arm across her waist as they slept, the sound of his laughter echoing through their former loft, the future they had planned together. In those moments, grief would threaten to overwhelm her, but daylight always brought renewal. And with it, the continuing preparations for Dominic's birthday. Celebration and event she had insisted on completing, despite their separation. "It's already paid for," she had told him during one of their brief, strained conversations about practical matters. "Consider it my parting gift." He had accepted with visible relief, perhaps seeing it as a sign that forgiveness might eventually be possible. Olivia did nothing to discourage this interpretation. 3 days before the event, Olivia visited the Sugar Gallery, where Amelia was putting the finishing touches on what would be the centerpiece of the evening. The cake stood, nearly 3 feet tall, an architectural marvel of dark chocolate and gold leaf. Each tier represented a phase of Dominic's career, with miniature symbols crafted from sugar law books, scales of justice, and at the very top a perfect replica of the Patterson and Reed logo. "It's magnificent," Olivia breathed, circling the creation. "You've outdone yourself." Amelia's dark eyes gleamed with mischief. "Wait until you see the inside." She gestured to a small prototype cake on a nearby counter. "Would you like to test it?" When Olivia sliced into the sample, she revealed layers of different colored cake, separated by thin sheets of edible paper printed with images and text. "Papers dissolve immediately when they come in contact with saliva," Amelia explained. "But they're completely stable inside the cake until it's cut." Olivia examined the sheets closely. On them were the photographs and text messages she had provided irrefutable. Evidence of Dominic and Vanessa's betrayal, collected over the weeks since her discovery. Some had been sent by sympathetic colleagues who had witnessed their indiscretions. Others had been recovered from Dominic's cloud account, which he had carelessly left logged in on their shared home computer. "And you're certain these won't be visible until the cake is served," Olivia confirmed. Amelia nodded solemnly. "Not until the exact moment of truth. The outer layers are normal cake. Only the inner section, which you'll ensure is served to specific guests, contains the evidence." The night of the celebration arrived with perfect weather. Warm spring evening with a gentle breeze that carried the scent of blooming flowers across the Lotus's rooftop garden. Olivia had transformed the space into an elegant tableau of midnight blue and silver. Dominic's favorite colors, with subtle lighting that made the entire venue glow like a starlit sky. She arrived early to oversee the final preparations. Dressed in a gown of deep crimson that stood out among the blue and silver decor like a drop of blood on fresh snow. A deliberate choice that ensured all eyes would find her throughout the evening. Dominic appeared at 7:30, 15 minutes before the other guests were due to arrive. He hesitated when he saw her, uncertainty flickering across his handsome features. Olivia, he greeted her cautiously. Everything looks incredible. Thank you for doing this despite ... He trailed off, gesturing vaguely. Despite you shattering my trust in our future together. She finished for him, her smile pleasant but her eyes cool. Some commitments deserve to be honored, Dominic. I've always believed that. He flinched at the barb, but recovered quickly. I've missed you, he said quietly. These weeks apart have been ... clarifying. What happened with Vanessa was a terrible mistake, one I'll regret for the rest of my life. Interesting, Olivia replied, her tone conversational. When did you determine it was a mistake? When I caught you, or when you realized what you stood to lose? Before he could answer, the elevator doors opened, and the first guests arrived, senior partners from his firm, their spouses in tow. Dominic straightened his shoulders and moved to greet them, seamlessly transitioning into the role of gracious honoree. Olivia watched from a distance as the rooftop filled with guests. Dominic's mother, Eleanor, approached with open arms, embracing Olivia warmly. I've been so worried about you both, she confided. Dominic told me you're taking some time apart to reassess your relationship. I'm praying you'll find your way back to each other. Olivia returned the embrace, genuine affection in her response. Tonight isn't about our relationship, Eleanor. It's about celebrating Dominic's accomplishments. Let's focus on that. As the evening progressed, Olivia played her role perfectly, the supportive almost fiancé, graciously managing the event while allowing Dominic to shine. If guests noticed the slight tension between them, they attributed it to the pressure of the evening and the impending partnership announcement. At 9 o'clock, Harold Patterson, the firm's founding partner, tapped his glass for attention. Crowd quieted as he began a speech, extolling Dominic's virtues, his brilliance in the courtroom, his dedication to ethical practice, his embodiment of the firm's values. Integrity isn't just something Dominic preaches to clients, Patterson concluded. It's the foundation of who he is as a lawyer and as a man. It's my great pleasure to announce that, effective immediately, Dominic Reed is being named partner at Patterson and Reed. Applause erupted as Dominic stepped forward to accept the honor, his expression a perfect blend of humility and pride. Olivia joined the applause, her smile never wavering. Thank you all, Dominic began his acceptance speech. This moment represents the culmination of everything I've worked for, but achievements mean little without the right people to share them with. His gaze found Olivia in the crowd. I've made mistakes recently, personally and professionally, but standing here tonight, surrounded by mentors, colleagues, friends, and family, I'm reminded of what truly matters: integrity, loyalty, love. Murmur of approval rippled through the guests. Several glanced at Olivia with knowing smiles, anticipating a reconciliation. And now, Dominic concluded, raising his champagne flute, I'd like to propose a toast to upholding the values that define us, especially when it's difficult. Two values echoed the crowd, glasses raising in unison. Olivia stepped forward, her crimson dress catching the light. Before we continue the celebrations, I believe it's time for the cake. She gestured toward the service entrance, where waitstaff appeared wheeling in Amelia's masterpiece, now illuminated by small, twinkling lights embedded in the gold leaf decoration. Gasps of admiration filled the air as the cake took center stage. Dominic's expression was one of genuine surprise and pleasure. This is incredible, he said, turning to Olivia. You've thought of everything. I always do, she replied softly. Would you like to make the first cut? With cameras raised to capture the moment, Dominic accepted the knife she offered. Together, they positioned it above the bottom tier, his hand covering hers in what appeared to be a gesture of unity. To new beginnings, he whispered, meant for her ears alone. To truth, she responded, and they pressed the knife into the cake. First slice revealed nothing unusual, just layers of exquisite chocolate cake with ganache filling. Olivia directed the waitstaff to serve specific slices to key guests. Harold Patterson. Eleanor Reed, the head of the ethics committee. Dominic's closest friends. She herself took a slice, though she had no intention of eating it. The moment arrived, with the subtle precision of a well-orchestrated symphony. Harold Patterson was the first to discover an image in his Kaisia photograph of Dominic and Vanessa embracing in the doorway of her apartment building. Eleanor Reed gasped audibly at the explicit text messages revealed in her portion. The room expressions changed from confusion to shock as more evidence came to light. Dominic, who had been engaged in conversation with a senior client, became aware of the shifting atmosphere too late. By the time he realized what was happening, half the room had seen evidence of his duplicity. "What is this?" Harold Patterson demanded, holding up a cake-smeared photograph. "Dominic, explain yourself." Dominic's gaze snapped to Olivia, comprehension and betrayal dawning simultaneously. "You did this?" he breathed, the color draining from his face. Olivia set down her untouched cake and picked up her clutch. "No, Dominic, you did this. I simply served it in a form that matched your appetite for deception." She addressed the stunned crowd. "Please enjoy the rest of the evening. The bar will remain open until midnight." With that, she walked toward the elevator, her crimson dress a streak of defiance against the midnight blue decor. Behind her, chaos erupted as Dominic attempted to explain the unexplainable to people whose respect he had just lost. As the elevator doors closed, Olivia exhaled slowly, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The taste of revenge wasn't as sweet as she had anticipated. It was complex, bittersweet, and ultimately freeing. Tomorrow would bring consequences and conversations. Tonight she would return to her new apartment, remove her carefully applied makeup, and begin the process of truly moving forward. She had served her dish cold, as tradition dictated. Now it was time to nourish herself with something warmer. Rising. From the ashes, the aftermath unfolded with the predictable drama of a stone dropped into still water. Ripples spread outward, touching everyone connected to Dominic and Olivia in ways both anticipated and surprising. Dominic's partnership offer was rescinded the morning after the celebration, not because of the affair itself. Harold Patterson had explained in a statement that somehow found its way to industry publications, but because of the pattern of deception, incompatible with the firm's ethical standards. Translation: getting caught was the sin, not the betrayal. Vanessa relocated to the West Coast, taking a position with a rival event planning company that valued her client list more than her personal integrity. She sent Olivia a lengthy email, filled with justifications and apologies that went unread. Olivia herself became something of a legend in certain circles, the woman who had served revenge as the sweetest course. Some admired her calculated response to betrayal. Others criticized it as unnecessarily public. She ignored both perspectives, focusing instead on rebuilding stellar events and, more importantly, herself, 6 months after what had become known as the cake incident. Olivia sat in her office reviewing proposals for an upcoming celebrity wedding. Sunlight streamed through the windows of the renovated warehouse that now housed her expanded company. Where once Stellar Events had been a boutique operation focused on corporate functions, it now encompassed 3 divisions: corporate events, private celebrations, and the newest addition, Fresh Start Consultations, which specialized in helping clients create meaningful ceremonies to mark major life transitions. The latter had been inspired by her own experience. After the very public ending of her relationship with Dominic, Olivia had found herself adrift. Uncertain how to mark her passage from partner to single, from betrayed to empowered, she had created a private ritual for herself, burning old photographs on the beach at dawn, planting a garden of resilient perennials on her new terrace, commissioning a piece of artwork that symbolized transformation. These acts had provided closure that legal separations and property divisions could not. When a recently divorced friend had asked for help creating something similar, Olivia recognized an unmet need in the market. Fresh Start Consultations had been booked solid since its launch 3 months ago. A knock at her office door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called, setting aside the proposal. Amelia entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a bakery box. "I brought sustenance," she announced, setting everything on the desk. "And news." Olivia accepted the coffee gratefully. "What kind of news? Good, bad, or scandalous?" "Informative," Amelia replied, opening the box to reveal an assortment of pastries. "Dominic Reed has left Patterson and Reed. Word is he's taken a position with a firm in Boston." "I see."
Oh, Olivia selected a croissant.
Surprised by her own lack of emotional response. 6 months ago, any news of Dominic would have sent her spiraling through anger, grief, and regret. Now, it was simply information about someone who had once been central to her life, but was now relegated to the periphery. "Does it bother you?" Amelia asked, studying her friend's expression. Olivia considered the question honestly. "No," she finally said. "It feels like hearing about a character from a book I read long ago. I recognize the name, but the story no longer belongs to me." Amelia nodded, satisfaction evident in her smile. "That, my friend, is what healing looks like." Speaking of healing, Olivia changed the subject. The Sullivan wedding needs a cake designer who isn't afraid of unconventional flavor combinations. The bride specifically mentioned your lavender honey creation from the Wilson Gallery opening. They spent the next hour discussing business, their conversation flowing easily between professional matters and personal updates. When Amelia left, Olivia returned to the celebrity wedding proposal with renewed focus. As the evening approached, she packed her materials and prepared to leave for a site visit at a beachfront property being considered for a corporate retreat. Her assistant, Georgia, appeared in the doorway with a striking arrangement of orchids and lilies. "These just arrived for you," Georgia said, setting the vase on a side table. "There's a card." Olivia thanked her and waited until she was alone before opening the small envelope. Inside was a simple message: "To new beginnings that are truly ours. Dinner tomorrow?" Jaya's smile spread across Olivia's face. Jonathan Foster had entered her life unexpectedly 3 weeks ago, when his technology company hired Stellar Events to plan their product launch. Their initial meeting had extended well beyond the scheduled hour, veering from professional planning to personal conversation with an ease that surprised them both. After 2 casual lunches and 1 evening at the symphony, they had agreed to take things slowly, both carrying lessons from past relationships. Olivia typed a quick response: "New beginnings deserve proper celebration. Yes to dinner." Oh, as she drove to the beachfront property, Olivia reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The pain of betrayal had been transformative, burning away illusions and leaving behind something stronger and more authentic. She had discovered resilience she hadn't known she possessed, creativity that flourished in adversity, and a capacity for reinvention that had changed not just her personal life, but her business as well. The cake incident, as dramatic as it had been, was merely the catalyst. The real work had come afterward, in quiet moments of self-reflection, in therapy sessions that forced her to examine patterns in her relationships, in friendships that deepened when she allowed herself to be truly vulnerable. The beachfront property came into view as she rounded a curve in the coastal road. The setting sun cast everything in a golden glow that made the scene before her look almost magical, waves breaking against the shore, seabirds wheeling overhead, the elegant silhouette of the venue against the darkening sky. Olivia parked and stepped out of her car, breathing in the salt air. This was her favorite part of the job, seeing a space for the first time and imagining its transformation, visioning how it would look, filled with light and music and celebration. As she walked toward the building, her phone chimed with a message. From Jonathan: "Looking forward to tomorrow. Any cuisine preferences?" She smiled and typed back: "Surprise me. Just nothing with cake for dessert. Some lessons, after all, stayed with you even after the pain had faded." Inside the venue, Olivia introduced herself to the property manager and began her assessment. With notepad in hand and vision clear, she moved through the space with confidence. Already seeing possibilities where others might see only empty rooms, this was who she had become in the aftermath of betrayal. A woman who could look at blank spaces and envision beauty, who could take broken pieces and create something new, who understood that endings were often disguised beginnings. The sweetest revenge, she had discovered, wasn't in public humiliation or calculated retribution. It was in the quiet triumph of becoming exactly who you were meant to be, someone stronger, wiser, and ultimately happier than before. As night fell over the beach, Olivia stood on the terrace overlooking the ocean, the sound of waves a rhythmic backdrop to her thoughts. Tomorrow would bring new clients, new challenges, and a dinner with a man who looked at her with respect and interest rather than possession. She had served her dish cold. But what she was building now, her business, her life, her future, that she would serve warm, nourishing, and completely on her own terms. The past had been sweet vengeance. The future would be sweeter still.